Every time your real estate business slows down, your answer tends to always be, I need more leads, spend more money on marketing, buy another list. Why are you doing this when you haven't even fixed the leads you already have? Today, I'm gonna show you how to figure out whether your problem is actually marketing or if it's acquisitions, your follow-up, your process, so that you can stop guessing and start fixing the thing that's actually costing you the deals. And if you're new here, I'm Tiffany. Hi, I'm the co-founder of Heels Homes and Results Driven REI, alongside my wonderful husband and business partner, Josh. Hi. And after experiencing well over 2,000 real estate transactions and coaching over 5,000 students nationwide, I can confidently say that we've made probably every mistake there is to make. And now we help investors just like you avoid them so that you can live in what I like to call option freedom. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with whoever the hell you want. So let's dive in. Before you blame your leads, the market, yourself, or blame whoever is handling sales, whether it's you or a team, you need to know if you actually have a marketing problem or if you have an acquisition sales problem. And this applies whether you're a solo operator taking every seller call yourself, or you already have someone on your team who handles sales, like a closer, a follow-up specialist, etc. If you're solo, this is going to show you where you personally need to improve before you spend more money on marketing. If you have a team, this is going to show you where to coach, train, or hold them accountable. Because most investors don't actually diagnose the actual problem. They just guess and blame all the wrong things. They have a slow month and immediately say things like, my leads suck, the market's bad, or I'm just not good at sales, or my closer isn't closing and they suck, or I need a new marketing channel. But they never actually look at the full process from left to right. So what ends up happening is they blame the wrong thing, and sometimes they blame marketing when the sales process is actually what's broken. Sometimes they blame sales when the lead quality is actually poor, and sometimes they just throw more leads into a process that was never built to convert consistently in the first place. And if you don't know where the breakdown is happening, you're not making good decisions. You're literally gambling your money. So what I want to do is dive in to an analogy that I like to explain through a pipe under a sink. So let's take a look. Let's assume that you have a pipe that is underneath of a faucet and you pour a gallon of water down this pipe. You should get a gallon of water back in this bucket. But let's just say you have a leak in the pipe and you call a plumber. The first thing they're gonna do when they come out is they're gonna find the exact leak. What they're not gonna do is they're not gonna be like, hey, because there's a leak, I'm just gonna go ahead and duct tape this whole pipe and just hope that it fixed and covered up the leak. No, they're gonna find the exact leak, figure out what's wrong with it, and repair that leak. All right, so let's take a look at this inside your sales process. We take a bucket of leads, right? We invest money into marketing. So obviously we wanna monetize those leads. We pour it into the pipe, okay? And out comes contracts at the end. So let's go left to right, right? Because your sales process should have a check the box process of exactly what you do on every single call or appointment, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's in person or on the phone, or there's no way to performance manage it and you'll blame all the wrong factors. So the first thing we're gonna do is dial the lead, right? Because I virtually do everything. So we do everything over the phone. Then we either connect to that lead or we don't, right? So they either answer or they don't. This right here is a KPI and it's called the connection rate. Once we connect, they either wanna sell or they don't. So we call that a quality conversation. There's a KPI right there, right? So for example, let's just say that and I'm making these numbers up, let's just say your benchmark connection rate is 10%, and this KPI right here is below 10%. That's like ding, 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 red flag, right? Your acquisition scorecard, which I'll show you in a second, should be highlighting that red saying you have a connection rate problem. Your KPI says that you are not connecting with enough people, and then you should have an SOP to every one of these KPIs. So if the connection rate's off, we're gonna think, oh, is my number spammed? I need to check the number. Is there a compliance issue with my phone system? There's a whole checklist of say 10 things that I'm gonna go check on why this is low, okay? Then let's just say that this benchmark between connection and yes, they wanna sell or no, they don't, let's just say a bunch of people are saying they don't wanna sell and they're upset. So this rate is off, right? This KPI is off. That would tell me things like, I need to go verify what data I pulled. So is the data quality, right? So maybe it is a list or a marketing problem. Or maybe we're not handling the front end of the conversation right, okay? Now between, let's just say, yes, I wanna sell, to we call it a process call, some people call it a qualification call. There's a KPI between here. Now, let's just say they say, yes, I wanna sell, and then maybe my rate of actually qualifying them after is down. That says to me, well, maybe my closers are rushing the process and they're skipping motivation. So I need to go audit, why did this person say they wanna sell, but our call was less than 3 to 5 minutes? So I'm gonna go into the CRM, and I will make a different video for this. We have a whole 6-step KPI process to say, if this KPI is off, what are the 6 things I do in a row to actually diagnose what went wrong with that KPI? So from there, we're gonna say, okay, maybe the closer isn't handling the front end of the call, they're not setting expectation correctly, they're not diving into motivation right, and so these people that actually wanna sell are jumping off the call too soon. Now, let's say that we did qualify or process them and we go to make an offer. Okay, from offers, right? Deals. So KPIs in between each step. But if you aren't following a step-by-step sales process, you'll never be able to track proper KPIs against it. So let's just say that my offers to deal contract is off. So in my company, 1 of every 2 offers is a contract. Now, every so often, someone won't be performing for a couple weeks. So let's just say a closer's offers for contract slips from 1 of every 2 offers to 1 of 6. Ding, 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 red flag. It's not the market. It's not the marketing channel. The person doesn't suck. Maybe they just fell off the process with one thing. So what do? We go audit the calls where we made an offer but didn't get accepted, and we do a call audit process review against that call, which, by the way, you can't even do call audits if you're not following a check the box process. So for those of you out there that are like, I kind of follow a script, I kind of don't, but I kind of wing it because I know how to build a rapport, you'll never be able to performance manage the company by actual data, especially if you hire a closer. So if we hire a closer, it's one thing if you're an owner and you know how to close, right? But how are we ever gonna know what's actually happening in the process if we aren't following a check the box process? So in the offers, I'll give you an example. One of my closers went from 1 of 2 to 1 of 6 one time. So we did the whole 6-step KPI audit, which I'll get into in another video. And we found out that there was only 1 type of objection that she wasn't handling correctly on the calls and fell off the process. Awesome. This KPI told me that's where the problem was. I didn't stop and change marketing channels. I didn't throw more leads in. I didn't blow more money. I didn't blame the market. I didn't blame all these external factors. The KPI told me, ding, ding, this is where I gotta go figure out what's happening. So we went in, listened to the calls, did the audits, and found out 1 objection she wasn't handling correctly. Awesome. Fixed it within a week. Role played with her, trained it for 7 days straight, did extra call audits, fixed the problem because I knew exactly what was wrong from the data. So let's talk through how important a step-by-step process is. Let's talk about baking a cake. By the way, unfortunately for Josh, I don't know how to bake. I barely even cook. But if you were to hand me a box from Kroger that gave me ingredients and step-by-step of exactly what to do, I'm smart enough to follow the rules, right? I can follow the rules and make a cake. But let's say that you take the bag of flour out of that box and you say, here, Tiffany, go bake a cake. What's likely gonna happen is this cake here on my left, it might come out flat, maybe it's gooey, whatever, okay? But the problem with that is because I was never handed a process to follow, we don't know if it's because I put too much water, if I added an extra egg, if I was supposed to put too much milk, whatever was in the ingredients, we won't know what I did wrong because I never had anything to follow. Now, if I take the ingredients and follow a check the box process of what's on that box, it'll turn out like this cake on the right. Now, imagine being a salesperson, whether it's you and you're a solo operator, or you eventually bring on a closer, and you don't give them the ingredients. So what happens is a lot of people will themselves as a solo operator or hire a closer, and they'll have like a script, right? But guys, scripts is just one ingredient in the bigger process. And I think a lot of people get confused with that. They think I follow scripts, so I follow a sales process. It's just one step of the sales process, right? And if we don't follow the same process, check by check by check, we can't manage the process like I just showed you on the vibe board. You can't have a scorecard that benchmarks against the process because you're not following a process. So I want to challenge you. Think about your last 10 calls or appointments with sellers. If I pulled those out right now and I said, hey, did you handle every one of those with the exact same process so that I can audit it and tell you where the gap was to actually fix because you might be losing $30,000 opportunities? And you said, well, I kind of followed this process, but like I know how to build rapport, so I kind of just like build rapport and then follow this part of the process. There's no way to build a business based on data that way, okay? So let's go back to the board and I wanna show you just a screenshot of a scorecard real quick. So this is just a screenshot of the front of our acquisition scorecard. Now, this is dummy data, this is not our data, but what I want you to notice is up here on the top left, you'll see that we have benchmarks for every one of those KPIs. And then down here, you'll see that they are green or red in those. So this means that, let's just say right here, the connection rate minimum is 10%. Down here, someone's connection rate dropped below 10%. It says 6.1 and it's highlighted red. That way live every single day, you know, boom, on the spot, something just fell off of the benchmark KPI and I need to dive in and follow an audit process so I can fix what's happening, right? Because if you don't have your hands on tracking this every day, but yet you're spending hard-earned money and time on marketing and leads, you're gonna be blaming or even trying to fix the wrong thing that's costing you missed opportunities. Guys, if there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's that more leads won't fix a broken process. The investors getting consistent results are not guessing. They're tracking, measuring, and then coaching against that right number. If you want to see how we build these scorecards, our sales process, how we onboard closers, and accountability inside of our business, I'll put a link to our free training in the description of this video. Hope to see you there.